Your story is fascinating for many reasons. And one reason is that it's very unusual for an exited founder because you started as an investor, right? Then you moved to be a founder and now you're an investor again. Right? That's not typical at all. And I want to understand why that happened. I'm mostly interested in your decision post-exit to go back to the investing world.
But I'm going to go back to childhood even, actually. I think it's important context. I'm 4.5 years past my exit, and I think I've continued to learn more every day. But if you asked me some of these questions a couple years ago, I probably wouldn't have gone back, or even a year ago, I might not have gone back to my childhood. But I think some of the work I've done has helped me realize that that's where a lot of this starts. And I grew up in New York. I grew up comfortable, amazing, supportive parents, family, community. And the part that I'm really going to go back to and on without going too much into my childhood is like, I grew up in a community where people spoke about money a lot. People spoke about money from the perspective of like, sometimes it was what they didn't have, or sometimes it was showing off what they did have. But like money was brought up a lot at like, tables with family and friends, either, directly or, as like a subtext. And I remember in like 6th or 7th grade, actually calculating, to live in New York and to have a family and to provide for them and hit the core pieces of what I want to do, how much I would actually, a family would need to be making, not me, but a family would need to be making in order to support them. It's a really young age to be doing that. Yeah. And it kind of just was like self-reinforced, honestly, I would say throughout my life until that exit. Where like, I think if I trace back a lot of decisions that I had made up until that point, it went back to how do I remove that anxiety that was like sitting there on like that provider identity that I had in order to do it. And so now to actually kind of share that story, right? Like, so I, University of Michigan for college, studied business, partly because that was the most obvious path to do that. I was very fortunate to work at UBS on the sales and training floor for 2 summers, just like as an intern. But like usually those are the internships that the people I was working with were MBA interns, or they were towards their end of their undergraduate degree, and it helped me realize that I don't want to do that. Yeah, I was making really good money at a very young age, and I realized that I spent most of that time looking at the clock for how much money I was making per hour for the end of the day to go home and be done with it. Like the actual work was really, I mean, I use this word a lot around like what drains my energy or gives me energy, but like really drain my energy. And I was fortunate to kind of just explore something totally different. Went to Israel for a bit, worked at a startup accelerator there, got a feel for startups, and like fell in love. But I wasn't ready to kind of jump into starting something. I did some small things on the side in college, but I wasn't really ready to start something because I didn't have the risk tolerance because of going back to that financial anxiety and wanting to provide. And so the default was like, what about venture capital? But venture capital, this is 2012, 2013, like it was not easy to get a job in venture capital, especially like straight out of school. And I actually accepted a job at a consulting firm at very last minute. Insight Partners, who's one of the largest VC firms in the world, actually came to recruit on campus for the first time. Long story for how that happened. Got the job, was at Insight for 3 years doing software investing. Great path, great people, interesting job. I kind of poked my head up one day. And I looked at the people that were kind of 10, 20 years ahead of me at the firm or on the same path. And not only did I not envy them, I didn't really want to be them. Yeah. So all of a sudden I woke up and I was like, okay, I've got my dream job. I'm compensated very well. I can solve for that financial anxiety because just like, by staying there. And, there's the job is interesting. Yeah. But it's not really what I want to do. And I think that like that deep-rooted desire to build something of my own was kind of always there. And if you think about my job was like sitting across the table selling money while the other person was like building, and like
you wanted to be them.
I wanted to be them. And like and at some point like I had this idea I couldn't shake, and I started talking to entrepreneur founder mentors of mine, and they were all like, I had no fucking clue what I was gonna do, or what I was doing and how I was gonna do it. Just go try. was like, what do you mean? I've never had operating experience. I've never hired anyone before. How am I just going to go start a company? They're like, and yeah, I grew the courage to just like, leave the investment firm, start, my last company was Shlomo, who runs PF with me as well. It was a software company, went through a lot of learnings, and then exited in early 2021. So it was about 4 years from start to finish.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and it was a financially life-changing event. I was just turning 30 at the time, so it was a pretty young age to do that. And it was the questions kind of coming out of that experience that led me to start PF and to look for those mentors and advisors to help on the tax and wealth questions to the more existential identity, purpose, fulfillment.
So from there to here, that's very interesting, right? Very relevant, because now we're in the post-exit territory.
Yep.
And I think it's wonderful that you are talking about your childhood, because what I've observed is that lots of post-exit founders who are going through this experience really, really well, they find that deeply fulfilling path for themselves. They find their mission, they find their tribe. At some point, they do go back to their childhood to find out who they really are, because that's where we need to start, right? And that's the luxury of being post-exit, that suddenly we don't need to go find the job that our parents or somebody else thought would be the right thing for us to do, but we can finally find our own thing.